When I saw A Woman Under the Influence, and that was about 6 years ago now. So I'd been acting since I was 9 and kind of fell into it because I was always performing in some capacity, dance or whatever. But when I saw that film, I just kind of moved to Toronto quite recently and was taking a lot of classes and was sort of like, I didn't have my place in it quite yet. Didn't feel like it was mine until I saw that film, and her performance was just so beyond anything I'd ever seen in terms of just the imagination of it and the largeness of it, and I just felt so much watching that film, and I was like, oh God, that's the potential for what this art form could be. And from then on, it was just like a fascination with how that happens, how she managed to do that, and what the chemistry of, her and Peter Falk and Cassavetes was that allowed for that kind of freedom. So that was really the film that changed everything for me. I have no idea what's happening, ever. And they'll ask me for EPK stuff, like, what does this corporation within Orphan Black mean? I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea. I can, take care of this moment and what the interaction is with the actor opposite me and what my drive is, but outside of that, I have no clue. It doesn't happen easily, I don't think, because there are so many distractions and it's such an unnatural process. But thankfully, I work with such awesome actors who kind of keep me awake and constantly change it up and are always present. So it helps me to stay present if I'm keyed in with whoever I'm working with. But I've also just worked with awesome coaches who've overloaded me with sensory or things like that, so that distractions become just part of it. And I've seen actors who, if something bumps off screen, they'll respond to it instead of pretending it's not happening. And I think that kind of inclusion of the distraction sort of can help you and sort of be part of it. And so much of Orphan Black is chaos and is intense. And so to have a bunch of people watching isn't necessarily a bad thing, I think it used to be purely methodology, and it was all about notes, and it was all about adhering to the notes that I'd made and the choice that I'd made in my bedroom before I even got to set. And then after working with, actors who were just who just wouldn't let me get away with that, and who woke me up, and acting coaches and directors who were just just be present, just why, you know what I mean? Because hiding in my notes was a way to maintain control. And so I've kind of gotten the opposite way, where now it's so much about instinct, and I'm trying to sort of marry the two, but I love working off of instinct. I love working off of first impulses and just sort of trusting that whatever's going on in my instrument or in my body is what's right for that moment. I don't know. I think, I come from Saskatchewan, where the industry was very new when I was growing up, and Hollywood and all that stuff, that other stuff, didn't sort of ever come into play. I think there's something about being raised in Regina that has sort of made it about not that other stuff. For me, it's always been about doing improv, or there's a huge improv community in Canada, and I was always deeply entrenched in it, whether it was with long form or with high school improv or whatever, playing with my friends just in a park at night, doing Fight Club improv. You know what I mean? We always were creating work because there was so much space to create, because we were in Saskatchewan and there's not a lot to do, So I think there's something about the space in Canada and the fact that there aren't so many people, and there's not so much, I don't know, it just feels like there's breathing room, and I think that breeds a lot of creativity, and I feel like there's so many Canadian filmmakers coming up right now that I'm so excited about. Xavier Dolan is one of them who I'm just obsessed with. His work is so vital and so new and exciting and very of our generation, and that is I think because there's space in Quebec to do that, and great funding and great support for unique voices. So I feel really proud to be Canadian because of all the things that sort of give us this platform for creativity. Whereas it's not, I don't know, just so many of the work I've done in Canada has not been about money in any way or studios or anything like that. It's just about people desperately wanting to create work. Yeah, oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something I kind of like enjoy. I sort of pride myself on that because I think from my growing up in the industry, I've never felt part of that part of it. The whatever, the festivals and all that stuff is just sort of this other world. And to be an outsider in it, kind of, I think there's freedom there, and I often play outsiders in, like, Orphan Black is kind of exclusively outsiders. Picture Day, Grown Up Movie Star, like, these are all characters that don't fit into society necessarily. And I'm fascinated with those people. I feel very much part of that, and interested in these sort of constructs that exist, and what people who don't belong in those constructs, what their construct is. I don't know. I think I'm not interested in, like, the popular kids. Like, I don't care. All my friends are, outsiders in their own way, so those are the people I'm attracted to. Absolutely. I think that's what I'm so fascinated with in Orphan Black, is just the exploration of one person in so many different forms. And I think it sort of breaks the mold in terms of, like, what we think the possibilities of human nature are, and that everyone could start as one thing and become something else depending on their choices or depending on their decisions or outside influences or their biology, like all these factors that make us ourselves. And I'm so interested in that stuff, in the sort of psychology and the biology of it. And also just as an actor to get to go, okay, I'm gonna be this suburban soccer mom with 2 adopted kids who's holding her whole life together, with a stranglehold. And I'm gonna play this, UK hustler girl who'd rather be off drinking and doing drugs than she would being a mother. It's so fun to get to play characters. I don't think a lot of actors get to play big, bold characters on television, and so it's awesome that our audience is willing to kind of suspend their disbelief for it. I love it for checking back in physically, going back into the heartbeat of the character or the rhythm of the character or their sort of drive through the world. Music is like, it's the only reason I can exercise, or the only reason I could walk into a room and feel confident, is if I have something that's sort of resonating inside of me. And so it takes me out of my head. If I'm on set and I'm really struggling to be present or find the emotion that's true or tap into the physicality of something, it's always music that helps me get there. Because there's something about it that's just like, it's transportative, and it takes me out of myself. I don't have to feel constrained by my self-consciousness, because it's like I have this other thing going through me. I wasn't such a fan of sci-fi. I think the extent of my sci-fi fandom was I really liked Star Trek growing up, like the original series, and I liked Futurama because it was sort of like a loyal parody of sci-fi, of all these different tropes and all these different kinds of characters. So that's kind of the extent of my sci-fi. And I never think of Orphan Black as a sci-fi show until I meet the fans and they're like, have that sci-fi fandom. It's such a specific thing. But I never think of it as sci-fi, weirdly. And it was so not a world that I was like, I have to do that, that's my genre or anything. Legally Blonde. But I also think it's just an awesome movie. I think her character is so great in it, and it's just like a well-made comedy. Yeah, I love Legally Blonde. And The Mask, I love The Mask. I've seen it. I can quote The Mask. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Not the first one, the better one, but the crappier second one that's my movie. I think I was 5 or something when number 2 came out, and I got it for Christmas, and I'd seen it. It was one of the first movies I saw in the theater, and I was terrified and like just in love with the turtles. I just had crushes on them, and I was like, that's the man for me, Raphael. I don't know. I still have this like absolute affinity for that film. I could still watch it and be like, this is a flawless movie. I got told just to breathe. I was in an acting class and I was like so bound and so kind of tense and doing everything with a lot of tension, with a lot of aggression, and my teacher was just like, you need to breathe because you're not breathing. And I think that honestly is the biggest, that's just the key into everything. That's the key into being present. That's the key into your emotional life and being with the other actor and being vulnerable. So I honestly think it's like so simple, but it opened up everything for me.